This is genuinely fascinating, and the reaction has been even more fascinating. What am I talking about? Well, independent presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. had a call with Donald Trump. And this call has now been leaked. A video of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. on the phone in his hotel room. RFK Jr. has come out this morning and said, "I'm so sorry this leaked. It wasn't supposed to happen. Oh no," because of what's in the call. Very bizarre stuff coming out of Trump's mouth. And I will note before playing the video for you that it's fascinating seeing Trump is Trump behind the scenes. Now, he's saying things he wouldn't say publicly, so that's the interesting part. But what I mean is, for a minute and 40 seconds, which is the leaked part of the call that we have, RFK Jr. doesn't say a thing, and Trump is just talking the entire time. Yeah, about as we would have expected. But Midas Touch reports, RFK Jr. camps leaks video of Trump call. The video was posted to Twitter. This is Ron Filipkowski writing, independent presidential candidate, and obviously I'll actually play it for you, but I first want to give you some context. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. apologized this morning on Twitter for a video that was leaked by his campaign of his phone call with Donald Trump shortly after his assassination attempt. It was apparently posted by his videographer and or his son, and appears to be a push by Trump to get Kennedy to drop out of the race and endorse him. And one of the notable parts you'll hear up front here is the anti-vax rhetoric that Trump is espousing. As we go along, because it's sort of muffled, I'll jump in and tell you sort of when topics are shifting and what he's getting into so that it's clear what you're hearing. But here we go. Pretty wild little insight into this private moment.
I agree with you, man. Something's wrong with that whole system. Yeah. And, and it's the doctors you find. Remember I said I want to do small doses. Small doses. When you feed a baby, Bobby, a vaccination that has like 38 different vaccines, and it looks like it's meant for a horse, not a 10-pound or 20-pound baby. It looks like you should be giving a horse this. And do you ever see the size of it? Right? It's this massive. And then you see the baby all of a sudden starting to change radically. I've seen it too many times. And then you hear that it doesn't have an impact, right? But you and I talked about that a long time ago. And anyway, I would love you to do stuff. And I think it'll be so good for you and so big for you. And we're going to win. We're going to win. We're way ahead of the guy. And, he's interesting.
So there he's saying, I would love for you to, meaning drop out and endorse is our assumption. He's now shifting into saying, because we're going to beat the guy, being President Biden. And that brings in Trump's mind the conversation he just had with Biden when Biden called post the failed assassination attempt on Trump's life. And Biden called to make sure Trump was okay. And Trump reflects on that briefly.
We're going to win. We're way ahead of the guy. And, he's interesting. It was very nice, actually. He called me. And he said, how did you choose to move to the right? So I guess that's, people say, if I was looking straight on, right? He said, I said, I was just showing a chart. I didn't have to tell him the chart was on all the people pouring into our country, right? But, I just turned my head to show the chart. And something wrapped me. It felt like a giant, like the world's largest mosquito. And it was a bullet going around. What do they call that, an AR-15 or something? That was a big gun. Those are pretty tough guns, right?
And then I guess, excuse me, that's when Robert F. Kennedy Jr. would have jumped in after that minute and 40 seconds. So, yeah, one random thing before responding to what is a really consequential leaked call here. We'll get to RFK Jr.'s response on Twitter. Something was funny to me. And before I say this, I want you to know, I know some on the left, and this is Republicans' dream. Some on the left aren't super fond of proudly showing off the flag and putting it up in places. So what I'm about to say about this flag is not me associating with that way of speaking about and dealing with sort of patriotic symbols. I love patriotic symbols. We've talked about that before. I have a big American flag above my bed. And so it's still weird, though, the placement of that flag, because he's just in a hotel room, and something cracks me up about saying, hey, bring in the flag, and just sort of putting it up against the wall. Just in case, sometimes you wake up in the middle of the night, and you know how you can wake up in the night, and you're just so thirsty, and you just drink a bunch of water? Some people, like RFK Jr., and myself, which is why I have a flag in my room, you wake up in the night and you just have to, I pledge of allegiance, have to have a flag close to your bed. So there it is. I found that interesting. If you are not already subscribed to this channel, what are you doing? You're breaking my heart. But please do click that subscribe button. It's easy, it's free, and I appreciate it greatly. Back to the video. But more interesting is RFK Jr.'s response. When President Trump called me, I was taping with an in-house videographer. I should have ordered the videographer to stop recording immediately. I'm mortified that this was posted. I apologize to the president. So what's so controversial about what we just watched? Well, first, Trump, in an effort, who knows what he really believes, but we know he's saying the stuff about vaccines and perpetuating some of the talking points that RFK Jr. perpetuates in furtherance of this appeal to RFK Jr. trying to get him to drop out and endorse Trump. We already, in the pro-democracy movement, are in a tough situation right now, politically, and we have a lot of work to do until November. If RFK Jr. did drop out and endorse Trump, that would become an even more difficult situation, which is why Trump wants it. He knows that could really shift a massive population, or at least a consequential population of people, into supporting him, because one of the things we've been increasingly seeing is while the presence of RFK Jr. in this race is uncertain, and thus I'd prefer for him to get out and endorse Biden, we're seeing that increasingly it seems MAGA folks are the ones, or otherwise MAGA folks are the ones supporting RFK Jr. His sort of conspiratorial stuff, his policy incoherence, and then anti-vax stuff, the COVID pandemic related rhetoric, that associates more with and appeals more to MAGA people, right? So it makes sense that as people get to know more, and it's not just a Kennedy, which would appeal more to Democrats, but instead this sort of MAGA adjacent, at least in some of his rhetoric, figure, then people who for whatever reason aren't super fond of Trump, but want some of that right-wing ideology, then RFK Jr. could be an option for them. And in some polling, that has been the case. In other polling, RFK Jr. hurts Biden. So it's hard to really know what would be the ultimate outcome. But Trump knows that there are a lot of people who, if Robert F. Kennedy Jr. did endorse Trump and campaigned for him, God forbid, they would go over and support Trump. Previous RFK Jr. supporters probably would, many of them, support Trump if RFK Jr. endorsed him. The other reporting I saw about what was discussed on this call, or at least what has been discussed between the two campaigns, is figuring out how Robert F. Kennedy Jr. could have a place in Trump's administration. At one point long ago, RFK Jr. publicly said that the Trump campaign, before they had picked J.D. Vance, pitched RFK Jr. on being Trump's running mate to really seal the deal, to get his supporters, and that wasn't something RFK Jr. wanted to do. But now, a different position in the administration, Trump here trying to make it sound like, hey, some of your pet projects, your favorite issues, like your anti-vax nonsense, I could serve to give you the power to further some of those interests and roll back some of those, or roll back some of the progress we've made as a society. Obviously, this is me intertwining my own, science-based perspective on this. But what RFK Jr. would do is likely roll back progress we've made in public health and protected so many people's lives through vaccines, and his wild, not fact-based positions could really put that into jeopardy if he got a place in a Trump administration, if Trump won. So the fact that they were talking, again, reportedly a really friendly conversation, Trump trying to appeal to him, and pitching him on a position in the administration could spell trouble for us, just to be frank with you. But whatever happens, it's the same job between now and November, and that is to work through our democratic political process to prevent what would be a pretty disastrous second Trump term. And because of recent events, I'll say as clearly as possible, as many times as it takes, that we advocate for, we work in the interest of democracy through democracy. Nothing else. Not violence. Not even interpersonal demonization. We advocate for democracy through democracy. That has to be our rallying cry. Let me know what you thought of that in the comments. If you want to get an extra episode of this show daily and support the work that we do, you can do so by clicking the join button below.